Okay, members, we're going to start streaming again. So please take your seats. We're going to start streaming. Members, can you please take your seats, please? We're starting streaming. Thank you. Okay, so finally to the last paper, which will take up the rest of the time this evening. Okay, I'd like to have a quick introduction from the portfolio holder, Councillor Isaac, please.
Good evening, Chairman, and good evening, Councillors. So we're asking you to give your views on the master plan that's been prepared. You've got the master plan as part of your pack, so we're happy to answer any questions on it. Our leisure park is one of our most important and best used and most loved facilities, and since the agreement with New River was terminated at the end of last year, officers and our consultants have been working very hard to get us to this point so that we can press ahead quickly with the regeneration of the leisure park, looking for a cabinet decision in January of next year. And I've got the project director, Kate Dean, and our excellent architect and master planner from BDP, and also Officer Helen Taylor-Cobb with me to answer any questions tonight. Just as a bit of background, you know that the leisure park was largely built out in the 80s and the 90s, and inevitably it's showing its age, and so it does need new investment. It does need some more contemporary leisure attractions to ensure that it continues to be a major magnet for our residents to use, and also those visitors coming into the borough. You also will realise that it's big. It's 57 acres, and there's a lot of it that's not been developed. So there are good opportunities there, but equally, a lot of it is on long leases. A lot of the existing facilities are on long leases, and so there isn't the. It's a case of needing to work with those existing long leaseholders and occupiers, but there are opportunities for us to unlock the sites that haven't been developed to date. One major facility that the council does own directly is, of course, the aquadrome, and that's going to form a key element of our plans for the future. You'll recall that we did put together a joint venture with New River that would have brought in £300 million of investment. That fell foul of the pandemic and also a long legal challenge. So that model is no longer viable. And what we're looking at here, in order to move things forward, there aren't the parties out there to do a joint venture. The procurement process, as we know, would take forever, and there's a benefit in us having direct control as a council. So what we're planning to do here is to proceed on the basis of building a new aquadrome as a council and funding that ourselves, but also talking to the leading leisure operators who and bringing them to the leisure park on the basis that they would develop their own new facilities on the plots, guided by our master plan. So, on the master plan, we've had a range of advice from consultants. What I think it does is it makes the current leisure park, which is piecemeal, into something much more coherent. And I think, and there's clearly if you look at the master plan, there are two parts. There's destination space, and then there's a linear park. Or alternatively, you can look at it in terms of a zone for activities and a zone for culture. So there's a lot of thought that's gone into this. And of course, as part of that, we have listened to what our residents say they want and didn't want. There was a public consultation back in February and March, and there's an ongoing opportunity for residents to give feedback throughout November. And we're getting some good early response, I'm pleased to say. So some of the things that our residents have said they really want to see was more leisure, obviously, a new aquadrome, more open space, more free space where free activities could take place. So that's all been factored into what we're proposing with the master plan. So what I would say is that the master plan needs to be looked upon as a sort of gateway. It's an enabler for us to move things forward and take the decisions, talk in earnest to the parties that have expressed an interest in the leisure park, so that we can make decisions on who's going to be best able to fulfil the requirements that we want for the future on the leisure park, and who are going to be the businesses that we would hope to be around in the future. As part of that, over the work we've been doing to date, over the summer, our property advisors went out to the market on a confidential basis. And I must say that it was a revelation, because we'd been told at the beginning that the leisure industry, like so many industries, was on its knees following the pandemic. But no, things have bounced back very quickly, and there's a lot of interest in Basingstoke, and I'm immensely encouraged by the breadth and the highly, I think, highly modern, contemporary leisure offers that we've been receiving. If I could just say a few words on the aquadrome and the ice rink before concluding. On the aquadrome, pre-pandemic, we had close to 1 million visits a year, and so it is actually clearly one of the best used facilities that we have as a council. We're spending money on it, and have been recently, to carry out repairs that are needed, but it's reached a point now where we've come to the conclusion that rather than following the option of refurbishing it, actually it's one where it would be better for us to build a new aquadrome funded by the council on a new site on the leisure park. On the ice rink, now, if I can just turn to the ice rink, because I know that that's, again, a very, very popular leisure activity in Basingstoke, and it has users of the ice rink who are passionate about it and are very concerned, understandably, that it continues to figure in the mix of opportunities for leisure at the leisure park, and concerns about the state of repair of the existing facility. The long leaseholders, Standard Securities, put their interest onto the market. When was that?
About 9 months ago.
About 9 months ago. And the operator of the ice rink, Planet Ice, has been in discussion, we know, with Standard Securities about acquiring their interest. The council is the freeholder. The council is supportive of any arrangement that means that investment goes into the ice rink so that it is fully refurbished. Those discussions are ongoing. We are, as a council, intent on making sure that any assignment is subject to works being carried out by whoever proceeds with the assignment if that does take place. So those discussions are complicated and sensitive, but they are ongoing, and I hope that between everyone we will be able to arrive at the outcome that everyone wants. Clearly, it's important that whoever takes on the long leasehold interest of the ice rink has the financial capacity and the financial credibility to ensure that the works that are needed and required are done. So, to conclude, Chair, I would say that this master plan is a gateway that enables us to move ahead swiftly. I'm going to be interested to hear what councillors have to say about the proposals that have been prepared, but I think that we have to be aware that this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to get things right, and we're very keen that we catch the tide of interest in the leisure park from the leisure industry and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isaacs. Okay, members, if no one has any questions on the executive summary, I'd like to move on to, sorry, Councillor Koneska.
Thank you, Chair. We mentioned in paragraph 1.2 that the asset has potential to act as a regional draw, and I think it's absolutely right that we should be ambitious with this, and I guess we'll discover in the next hour or so, depending on the debate, as to whether we think as a committee we've been successful in creating a regional draw. But assuming that we are, assuming we do become a regional leisure destination, what are we going to do to make sure that the rest of the borough, and particularly, I guess, the town centre, benefits from those crowds that this brings in? Particularly, as we mentioned in the following paragraph, 1.3, we reference SS9 and respecting the role and purpose of the core town centre. So how are we going to link the two to make sure that we benefit from that increased footfall in the area?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. That's a fair point. We're very conscious of this, the need to make sure that what happens on the leisure park in future, that it complements and supports the town centre. And in fact, in our deliberations so far on examining those leisure operators that have come forward, one of the considerations for us will be, well, would this be better off? Would this activity be better in the town centre? Does it need to be on the leisure park? So that's a key factor. I think the other thing is that Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, yes, sorry. That if the regenerated leisure park is as successful as we hope it will be, that will bring in a lot of visitors to the borough. I think there's every prospect that that these visitors will not only go to the leisure park, but they'll spend time in the town as a whole. And they'll stay in the hotels, maybe, and they'll visit restaurants and other shops. And so I think the sort of cumulative benefit of getting this right and making it into a regional draw is going to be very helpful, both in terms of spend in the town centre and also jobs.
Thank you. I agree. I think my question was, my point was that we've just got to make sure that if people do come to the leisure park, they also come to the town centre, because if the transport connections, for example, aren't great, or the offers too similar, they won't. So we've got to get this absolutely right so that it's not just the leisure park that benefits.
Okay, I think that was agreement with that, Councillor Canesco. Councillor James, please.
In the summary, you talk about a revised leisure park. What does that look like in relation to the cinema, in relation to the briefings that we've been given on the cinema, and what does it look like in relation to the existing hotel? And I also, as part of that question, in relation to the revised, what's on there at the moment, in relation to milestones and the grant that we give milestones at the moment, where are we on that, and how much do they receive from the council, the county council, for milestones?
Certainly, Kate.
Thank you, Chair. On the cinema, we don't envisage any change. The asset is owned by Slough Borough Council, who are currently in the process of selling it. So we anticipate that for the time being, the Odeon will continue to trade as the Odeon. They have got a lease that expires in about 4 years' time. So it will then be up to the then owner to decide what they want to do in terms of reletting that asset. On the hotel, we've spoken to all of the current occupiers on the leisure park as part of the public engagement. We understand that they have had plans previously to invest in that asset, and we'll be encouraging them to bring forward the refurbishment of the asset and those plans. In terms of grants to milestones, I'm afraid I can't talk to that point.
Supplementary, can I just ask if you could give us that information, that would be great. But in relation to the cinema, are we likely to lose, if they don't sell it in the 4 years, is it likely not to be a cinema after the 4 years, or what happens to that site?
So one would expect a new investor to be looking at it with the intention of investing further in it and making it work. But of course, it could conceivably become a redevelopment site. But we would, if the new investor wanted to do alternative things on the site, then that might be an opportunity. I would have suspected, though, that is it Odeon?
Yes.
The Odeon would I would think, from a business point of view, would want to continue to offer an Odeon cinema in a place like Basingstoke, but we see. But the other interesting thing, of course, is that as part of the marketing exercise that was carried out over the summer, there were cinemas that were contacting us, cinema brands that were contacting us, expressing an interest in coming onto the leisure park. So I think one way or another, I would be pretty optimistic that we will have a cinema continuing to operate on the leisure park.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Just very quickly before we go into more questions, my plan for this is to obviously go through very quickly, and we've got a question on the executive summary, but then I'd like to go straight to section 2, which is the proposal. Okay, go through section 2, see if there's any questions on there. Then I'd like to take sections 3 and 11 together, which is the rest of the paper, and I'd then like to spend most of our time on the appendix 1, which is the master plan, okay, and go through that pretty much side by side, so we make sure that all comments are covered. Okay, so Councillor Rattigan.
I think Councillor Konechko you had your hand up first.
It'll come after you, Councillor Rattigan.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I accept the warm words from the portfolio holder, but they seem to be exactly the same warm words that were introducing New River Retail a number of years ago. I've just checked, so that is the case. Once in a lifetime opportunity to update the leisure park. Firstly, this whole project is likely to cost about £100 million. Now, are we getting a commitment that we will fund that, or are we going to rely on us just to do the aquadrome, which will be plus £40 million? So where is the other £60 million coming from? And remember, we have not had huge success with some of our partnerships recently. I'd like that answered.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Rattigan. Thank you, Councillor Rattigan. I'm not going to dwell on New River, but if it had gone forward and if there hadn't been a pandemic, if there hadn't been a legal challenge, we might all be sitting here saying how well everything has gone. But, you know, that's life, isn't it, really, Councillor Rattigan? You have sometimes things go well and sometimes they don't. You don't get the breaks. On your point, well, I don't know whether it's going to, I don't know where 100 million comes from. I do know that a new aquadrome is going to cost 30–40 million pounds, and we're aware of that, and there's a business case being put together, and as an administration, and I hope as a council, that we will think that that's wise, huge investment by this council at a time when so many other things that are happening in this country are not looking so positive. But, you know, our finances are secure. I talked to the Chief Financial Officer, and so we're arms locked on making sure that we can deliver that. Yeah, it's not going to be joint venture. I think that's one of the benefits of doing it this way. We can go plot by plot, and we can make sure that we're happy with the leisure operator concerned. We would be looking to them as a rule to be responsible for building their facility, and presumably they would be very happy to do that. They'd be happy to make sure it's right and it's not done by a third party. And so I think it potentially simplifies things. It speeds things up, I hope, subject to planning and everything, and the market staying reasonably buoyant, as it seems to be at the moment for leisure. So we're not going to have to find that, whatever it is, additional money from council resources. And we will be looking, as part of the deals that we make with these operators, to have sufficient surplus from those transactions to enable us to do the public works, if I can call them that, the ones that are not going to be income generating, and but inevitably the council will be largely responsible for ordering. So does that help?
John, I'm very glad to hear that we're not looking to have joint ventures. I think a number of us have questioned them in the past, so I'm grateful for for that. But obviously, it is vitally important that it is planned out, and therefore, are we going to get the old aquadrome running alongside a new one, or being built at the same time? Because these are important questions for residents. I mean, as somebody who goes there with his grandkids, I'm not happy with the current situation in the aquadrome. It's dirty, it doesn't work, it doesn't feel like it's welcoming, it's not fit for purpose currently. I hope once the flumes are in December, it will be much better. But as somebody who uses it, trust me, it isn't a great advert at the moment. But I take you on trust that we will have a great new aquadrome. But also, I'd like to understand the planning of what continues while we're building out.
That's a good question, and it gives me the opportunity of explaining our thinking. I'll ask Kate to add. But the sort of principle, I think, is that we recognise that one of the big problems about refurbishing the existing aquadrome is that there would be a long period of time when it would be shut down. So there would be no facility in the town. And so one of the big benefits in building a new aquadrome is that we can continue to operate the existing one, and so that there is no loss of that facility. That would be the plan anyway. Kate, do you want to add anything?
Just to say that BDP have identified a potential site for the aquadrome in the middle of the park.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll come on to that when we actually go through the master plan slides. Okay, Councillor Cubitt, you had your hand up for a question. Is that for section 1 or for section 2, please?
It's for section 1.
Okay, thank you.
I'm very glad to hear that you have got really positive feedback from the market, that you've got great plans. And I think the site is essential to the health and well-being of our borough and our people. However, I am going to say on public record that with power comes responsibility, and with power comes accountability. And the first cabinet paper which was approved in 2012. And we had grand ideas, and we even said in the 2012 paper, a similar approach has been taken on Basingview in securing Muse development as a lead partner. That was in 2012. And in 2022, we now have wasted 10 years, and we are not pursuing the new rivers, which, to be honest with you, I'm very relieved, and we don't have Muse. So something has gone wrong, and I really do think the council should be evaluating where it went wrong, because somebody made a huge error somewhere. Corporate body could be the somebody, but somebody has made a huge error. Secondly, whilst you say that the pandemic was the final nail in the coffin, it is true that we paid £70,000 to one of the top 4 accountancy firms to do an evaluation on the partnership. I won't name names. And we were given very strong advice not to proceed with the development agreement in its guise because it didn't have enough information, etc. There were a number of issues there, and yet we did. And the chief executive was involved, the senior officer who we had hired from Bracknell, who had expertise in huge projects and was specifically hired to sort out the leisure park and Many Down and Basingview, and the cabinet at the time, which was Councillor Isaac, your good self, Councillor Bound, and Councillor Tate. And I sent emails saying that there are massive issues in 2018, and I cited the reasons. So whilst I'm very excited that you've got great grand proposals, and I'm very pleased, I am very saddened that we are in 2022. We knew that the aquadrome had to be replaced in 2016. We spent an inordinate amount of money in order just to sticking plaster the aquadrome, and somebody somewhere has dropped a very big ball because we have got absolutely nowhere, and it's now 2022.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hewitt. Councillor Isaac, do you want to respond?
Yeah, well, I agree that we are accountable, and I'm perfectly happy to respond to those sort of criticisms. I'm not sure that this committee tonight is the best place for that. I would say to you that in terms of the Muse joint venture, imperfect as it was, and it was of its time when we procured them, but there's been a lot achieved on Basingview over those years. I'm not sure about, it doesn't fit my recollection that we decided we needed to replace the aquadrome in 2016. But anyway, if a scrutiny committee wants to look at these things, very happy to attend and to respond to those criticisms. I think what we're trying to do here tonight as a cabinet is to get some comments from the committee about the master plan, because the intention is that we should go to make a decision on it in January and get on with it, which I think we all want to happen.
Thank you, Councillor Isaacs. Okay, can we, sorry, Councillor James, are you on section 1 or section 2? I'm eager to, on 2, thank you. Okay, so Councillor James on section 2, and then Councillor Watts.
Just in relation to the DDP to develop a new master plan, it was just mentioned about the aquadrome, and that it was on the recommendations of DDP that the aquadrome would be in the centre of the site. I was involved in the map, and when we walked the site and all the work that we did, the discussions were that it was going to be on the, as you came in up on the ridge. When did that decision change, and why have we put it there?
By all means.
Yeah, it's a good question. Councillor Isaac introduced, the master plan is that kind of gateway framework, what we say. And like you rightfully say, at the MAP meeting, we discussed also various options. And what we've got now as a plan is not fixed that the aquadrome is right in the middle there. However, where we've got elements marked as additional leisure, they're the opportunities where the aquadrome could be. So it could be on the north side of the space.
Councillor James, can we come to that at the relevant slide? Because I want to go through the slides one by one. And I understand that, okay, but can we do that at the relevant slide? Because that will have the map actually on there, okay, and they'll be able to point out exactly where the leisure thing is, okay, as we go through the slides. So.
So where you can see the numbers, so now it's shown on page 10 as number 4, but it could be number 7 or 6. So there is that flexibility of how it could shape up, again, dependent on further discussions, because the idea very much of the master plan is that we've got these clusters of activities. So ideally, the aquadrome will be also working with other complementary leisure facilities and with the outdoor opportunities for sport as well. But it is possibly preferable to be in the middle of the site, because that's where we've got available land at the moment, and to achieve the continuity of the aquadrome being used until the new aquadrome is completed, it's best if it's in that location.
Thank you very much. No, Councillor James, is your supplementary to do with the placement of buildings? Because if it is, okay, we will be covering the slide talking about the illustrated master plan and what buildings are there. Okay, very quick, please.
Now I can't remember what I was saying. I was talking about the decision-making process. So you're saying it's not set in stone, but tonight, if we, once this goes from here, this paper, it then goes to Cabinet and it doesn't come back to full council, so where is it not set in stone? Who makes the final decision? Because it's not going to be members-led. Once it leaves here, you're going to go to Cabinet. And if we say we didn't want it in the middle, how do we ensure that it doesn't go into the middle? You know, that's what I want to know.
Councillor Isaac.
Well, we do have cabinet government here, and we are charged as an executive with delivering on these key priorities for the council. As your chairman said tonight, there will be visits, frequent visits, I imagine, over the period of the time to EPH, and there's opportunities for scrutiny committee if it comes to it. But we would be clear about the methodology for making decisions, and clearly we want to make sure that these are done with support, they align with residents' wishes, and take note of what councillors say as well. And I think what we would be looking to do is to have a sort of scoring matrix where we can assess the proposals from individual leisure operators, so that we can check that they meet as many of the priorities that we have as councillors, things like making sure that it's complementary to what's going on, what we want to see in the town centre, that the financial strength of the companies that we're talking to. There's a prototype version of this that exists, and so that's already very much part of our thinking for taking this to the next stage, assuming that Cabinet approves it in January.
Thank you, John. Councillor Cubitt, okay, you had a question. I'm assuming that's on item number 2, okay, and then we'll move very quickly through the rest of the paper as one, and then on to the slideshow. Councillor James, I'll take you in a minute, okay, with Councillor McCormack. Councillor Cubitt.
Yes, it's in relation to 2.12 and 2.13, active travel and parking. I'm extremely concerned about this clause. The leisure park itself is on the proposed route of Hampshire County Council's emerging mass rapid transport network, which aims to encourage greater use of public transport and non-car reliant travel. So I'd like to hear, before we talk about the aspirations, and as I said earlier, I'm very excited to hear that there is some excitement, but you might have heard my earlier contributions, which is that I'm going to have to end up coming in on a donkey because we don't have any public transport where I live. And the cars that we're encouraging our people to drive are electric cars, and therefore I would very much hope that the leisure park is going to be catering for cars and not donkeys.
Kate, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The scheme will be parked in accordance with the relevant car parking standards. The current car parking standards.
So can I have a supplementary, Mr. Chairman?
Certainly.
So in the original plan, we had 3,000 in the original decision notice on Cabinet in 2016, 3,600 car parking spaces. And I would very much hope that if we are having this massive aspiration for an amazing go-to place, we're hoping that people from all around the region are going to be coming here, and people like me from the villages with the donkeys, that there is going to be at least 3,400 car parking spaces. And also, for example, with regards to the Odeon, a lot of my very elderly people in the villages come to the Odeon because there's disabled car parking, and it's much easier for them to go to the cinema at the Odeon because of the design of the Odeon than it is at View in Festival Place. So I very much hope that we will be catering for people who can use public transport and for it to be cheap, as alluded to by Councillor Carruthers, and that there will be sufficient disabled parking for people from both the borough and outside. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cubitt. Certainly.
Yeah. Thank you for raising that. And yeah, there's a lot of parking there at the moment that's practically never used. And whether it's 3,000 car parking spaces, I don't know, but because there's still so much that has to be done before we get to a fully regenerated scheme. But I can assure you, we'll make sure that there's sufficient car parking, but we also need to have an eye, and I'm sure you agree with this, Councillor Cubitt, to the fact that we're committed to reducing carbon emissions. We want more. We want people to use public transport. We want people to car share. We want people to cycle. So we talked about cycling and making sure that that there are cycleways through the leisure park. We want to encourage people to walk, and that will be that's a big feature of the master plan. So I think we want to get the best of all worlds as possible. But sure, car parking is going to be an important consideration for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Councillor McCormick, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, active travel and parking. So parking, yeah, I don't think there's 3,000 spaces on there. It's probably more like 1,000. There's certainly a lot of parking spaces not used. I'm just a little bit concerned that the car parking spaces that you wish to retain are the least popular ones that are tucked away around the back that people don't like using for safety concerns. Has any consideration been given to that? Because if people don't feel safe coming out of the cinema or the ice rink or whatever, the bingo place after dark, then they're not going to use the facilities. That's my first question. The second one is on the active travel. As somebody who lives near here, the foot and cycle access is frankly naff. You've got a footpath and cycleway coming down from Milestones that's rarely used, and you've got Greenways footpath to the west that's even more rarely used. You've got a mixed mode footpath and cycleway going under Churchill Way West that has had all sorts of clutter to do with drainage there for about the past 2 years. That hasn't been moved. So foot and cycle access is relatively low, and I don't see any tangible proposals to improve that. Better access, better lighting, new pathways, improved road crossings. There doesn't seem to be any of that in there. Just some kind of assumption that if you build a big boulevard down the middle and put a few more extra buildings in, that somehow the foot and cycle access will magically increase. So I'd like to know what active proposals are you going to put in to make it more attractive for parking and more accessible to drive up the numbers of people accessing by foot and bicycle.
Councillor Isaac.
Yeah, fair point. Thank you. And it's important that we get the location of any car parking right. And I would hope that that there's been some deep thought on that by the consultancy team. But if there's more work to be done, we'll pick up on that point. We'll make sure that that's covered, and also the importance of making sure that the access for cycling and for pedestrians is a key plank of what we're going to be looking to achieve at the leisure park. Do you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you. So on the car parking first, yeah, the main retained park is to the north end, which, like you say, it's less popular, but that still provides an opportunity to have the most of the car parking accommodation. But what is not shown at this stage yet is that as part of the car parking provision, obviously every building will come with its provision of disabled car parking, mothers and children's car parking. So that's part why Kate said earlier, the car parking provision will be reflecting the policies which require obviously the provision of those. In terms of the lighting and generally that kind of infrastructure for cyclists and pedestrians, that's one of the most critical parts of what we are aiming to achieve, and we've been coordinating with Hampshire County Council, like we heard earlier. I mean, it is work in progress, what they're doing on LC Web, but that's where we have been in discussions with them of how it's not only internally what we could achieve within the leisure park, but also how we link to the wider network.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, what I was just wondering, I've got Councillor Watts, Councillor Cubitt, and then Councillor Tomlin, and also Councillor James. I understand we've all got urgent questions. I'm just wondering whether they can be worked into the slides. Okay. Well, just hold on, because the big problem we've got, if we're not careful, is we're going to spend all our time on section 2, and we're not going to be able to comment on any of the slides. So I'm just asking for an indulgence. If you can please work your questions into, okay, one of the slides, okay, then we can move forward. Councillor James, is that acceptable or not? Okay, well, in that case, Councillor James, but you have already had 2 questions on section 2. Okay. Okay, and Councillor Tomlin, what's yours on, please? Okay. Shall we take the questions on parking first? Just one question, please. Then the question on sustainability, and then we do need to move into the slides for comments on the individual slides on the master plan. So, Councillor James, your one question, please.
We had 875 people that said that they came by car. We had 84 that came by public transport and 176 that walked. And also, all of those people, or everybody, apparently it was unanimous almost, that everybody talked about the importance of having free parking. And I know within the map, there was some discussion about charging. I don't know where we are with that parking. Is it envisaged that it will be parked, whether people will be charged? But so really for me, it's, I don't know what the parking standard is, Kate. So if you could help us understand what, for a leisure park, the parking standard is. And obviously that is now, and we're going to have a lot more on the site. And I know that we want to shift people's mode of travel towards something, but like we're saying, we're wanting this to be a centre of excellence that other people are going to come to. So if we've already got that number, what are we going to do? And is it going to be free?
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor James. Kate, is it? I'd rather that it came from the officers, maybe as a written answer. Okay, regarding the standards for car parking. Can we do that? Okay, there we go. So we'll get that in the minutes, and you'll be able to have that directly. I understand. Thank you, Councillor Cubitt. Okay, but we'll get a written answer on that. Okay, so I've also got the final speaker for number.
I had other questions around.
I'm sorry, I gave you one question.
No, the question was about free parking. Is it going to be free?
But I gave you one question. You worked in about 3 or 4 there, but okay, Kate. Okay, can you come back on the free parking or charging?
Yeah, there's been no decision being made on that aspect to it yet. There's going to be something that will be part of the overall assessment of business cases in relation to the viability of the regeneration generally.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I've got Councillor Cubitt, Councillor Tomlin, and then Councillor Watts, and then I'll move on to the slides.
Thank you very much. Just to say, the current provision is 1,700, And in 2016, it was agreed that there would be 3,300 on the heads of terms that were agreed. And then in 2018, Councillor Tate, without authority, reduced it to 2,400. Now, the context, which is key, is that we're hoping that this is going to be a really amazing go-to, and we know that at the moment it's very lackluster and it's 1980s. So the 1,700, if it's really going to be this very exciting go-to venue, is probably not going to be enough. That's all I would say. And therefore, what was agreed in the heads of terms of 3,300 in 2016 is probably a good one, reference.
Thank you, Councillor Cubitt. Do you want to come back?
Yeah, I think, I don't know, but obviously New River scheme involved a designer outlet centre. So this isn't going to have a designer outlet centre. And we will ensure that we meet the parking standards that as this as the leisure park is regenerated, and we'll make sure there is sufficient parking on the site.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Okay, I'd like to go to Councillor Tomwin now, please.
Thank you, Chair. Well, yeah, refer to page 87, section 2.11, be sustainable. 3 lines there. This is, as we've already explained, a generational change. This whole go-to thing could be an enormous self-generating power source leisure park for the south. We've got the thing we can do. Ground source heat pumps. We can have this combined heat energy where your Planet Ice is feeding your aquadrome with the waste heat. We could have solar on the roof. The car parks could have water covers and roofs and things, and on there we could have solar panels. We could actually generate enough power to run this site, and maybe even more for other things. And I think that's something we should be embracing, not just saying they will be energy efficient. I was in the car coming in tonight, and there was on the 5 o'clock news programme, it said many authorities, I think gave a number, in 5 months may be shutting down all their aquadromes because they cannot afford the energy, the current energy and running costs. Now, okay, that may face us, but here is a great opportunity. And even we might generate enough power for my one little thing that I've always had, and back in 2012, I never really explained it. You link the business, you link the leisure park to Festival Place with an overhead gondola system. Okay, you have that going up Churchill Way, and it's powered by the energy that you can generate on this site as well, and you will have people going backwards and forwards between the Festival Place, and it's a free transport system. It's also an experience, and it will cost a few million. Well, I mean, the site in across the Thames, but we're not going across the Thames, was 60 million. It's going to be a lot less than that. But those sort of things where you can make a special experience, and double whammy, you've got that link. You've got the railway station. You can get there from trains. You just jump on a wire gondola that runs you there or something, and it doesn't worry about traffic. But we can power it by technology, and we should be doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tomlin. Councillor Isaac.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yeah, it should be a central consideration, sustainability, and there are some exciting possibilities with solar energy with new buildings, but there's also some immense challenges because we're going to be generating a lot of CO2 by virtue of building, and then as you rightly say, the energy costs of for aquadromes are becoming a real problem, and that's why we're taking some further advice in putting the business case together from experts on how we meet that challenge with the new aquadrome. But yeah, it's a very important consideration, and I can assure you that it will be centre stage.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac.
Not sure about gondolas, but you're not the first person to mention them, and so I'm sure we will take that away.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. And I have to say that personally, I think mass rapid transport from the town centre out to the leisure park is like stage one of MRT. Whether that
are you talking about buses?
No. I'm talking about raised railways like the DLR, okay, or the scheme in Cardiff, okay, which is something similar. Okay, the final speaker for section 2, okay, is Councillor Watts, and then I'd like to move on to the draft master plan slides in Appendix 1, please.
Thank you, Chair. In answer to Councillor James's question, you said it's a cabinet decision. Surely you need cross-party support for each phase that you go through. We should get cross-party consensus because it's for the future of this town. So I didn't like the tone of your answer there, actually. So I think work can be done there. You talked about standard securities, the long-term lease on the ice rink. Have we got any idea how much that's going to cost, and why isn't the Borough Council going in for that lease? That's one question. On 2.8 on Saunders Field, now it's not going to be developed. We mentioned it's going to be managed by Natural Environment Team. Who is this Natural Environment Team? It's a very sensitive area, and we have some real environmental specialists in the town. I'd like to see them feed into that sort of scheme on Saunders Field. 2.13 Hampshire County Council Rapid Transport Network. I mean, on the previous paper, that's a dead dodo. So I'd like to see that scrubbed because we're not going to get rapid transport. I mean, we had a pink bus, but short term, that was cut. So it's an ideal opportunity to keep that pink bus going, but for short term political, ideological decisions, this council cut it.
Excuse me, Councillor Watts, is it possible we can have the first two questions answered?
All right, fair enough.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watts. We have cabinet government here, and cabinet is responsible, is charged with taking these executive decisions. But of course, we want as much cross-party support for these proposals. That's why that's why the system includes coming to meetings such as this, so we can hear your views and try and make sure that wherever possible, if they're ones that we can generally all agree on, that we can get round and deliver. So you know, that I hope, be reassured, we've gone out of our way, I think, to listen not only to councillors but also to. We had a councillors' briefing last week where there was a lot of comment made, which we've noted and it is in front of me, and we've also made a lot of effort to listen to the views of our residents, and we will carry on trying to build consensus on the leisure park, because I do accept that it's a facility that we all benefit from, and so we would like your support, Councillor Watts, in anything we do. On the ice rink, it is owned by private businesses. There's a long leasehold there. The council is not experts at running ice rinks, and I don't envisage a time when we would be. I don't think it's no. And on Saunders Field, I'm sure these are early. This is an early point in this, but the principle is that we want it to be a biodiversity lung for the borough, and particularly residents who live nearby, and that there's no decisions to be made on the governance of this, and we will be, of course, we were working with all of the expert stakeholders that are a feature and a very good feature of community life in Basingstoke today. An MRT, well, that's really, that's Hampshire County Council's responsibility at the end of the day, Councillor Watts, and we will be doing everything we possibly can to encourage them to provide us with the best in public transport in whatever form it takes to make sure that all our residents can get to the new leisure park and from wherever they are in the borough.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Okay, committee, I'd like to move on to Appendix 1, which are the slides in the draft master plan, please. Okay, and I'd like to take any questions that people have on site conditions regarding the site. Does anybody have any questions on Councillor James, then Councillor McCormack?
So I'd just like to pick up again, looking at the site, where we have the aquadrome, and to the side of the aquadrome we have a gym. So are we envisaging as part of the initial first phase, because there's a really successful gym that forms part of that aquadrome, and in relation to the presentation that we was given as members, that wasn't part of it. You know, there was other things that formed part of the aquadrome, but do you see when you move that the aquadrome and the gym will then, and is there any reason why that can't be on that ridge that we were initially looking at in relation to the site?
So just to say that there no final decisions have been taken. So just to preface that, any comments that my colleagues
So in terms of the gym, yeah, part of the new offer the aquadrome will have will be gym, and the leisure consultants that were looking at that suggest that it is very important element, like you say, and if not the same, it could be even a bigger gym as part of the aquadrome, which will then relate also to the outdoor facilities as well. In terms of location of the new aquadrome, I can't remember which exactly option you refer to. Is it the area to the south of the Milestones Museum?
McDonald's.
Yes.
I think it's McDonald's, isn't it? And there's a road that you go out once you've finished. It's up there.
Immediately to the right. Well, it could be there. That's the other possible location. There isn't a strong kind of view of whether it should be there or further within the site.
Thank you very much. Can we please remember to turn the microphones off so that we can actually capture the answers and the questions on public record, please? Okay, so therefore, Councillor McCormack, please.
Thank you, Chair. So looking at the aquadrome, reference page 2 of the appendix, what's going to happen while that's being rebuilt? With what provision are the existing gym users and pool users going to be using?
Well, yes, I'll start, and then you can correct me. Yeah, we spent millions of pounds on repairing the existing facility with the view that it should, I think, have a life for at least another few years, and hopefully we can get on and build a new aquadrome, and it will still be functional during during the period of the building works.
Yeah, so in terms of the existing facility and the users that are there now, the members that are there now, the idea is to, the proposal is to build out a new facility so that they can continue to use the existing facility. So the idea is then that there is no break in service for those that have memberships. And ideally what you would aim to do is switch off the old facility on, say, the Sunday evening, open the new facility on the Monday. The membership would port from one to the other. So that's how you would want to operate it from a service perspective.
Councillor McCormack, supplementary.
Yeah, so they're co-sited. The old and new are going to be co-sited next door to each other.
No.
Or is it
No,
going to
it's-
be a completely different part of the? It's not going to be on Saunders Field, is it? That floods.
No, we're up here.
That's what we can have.
Yeah.
Natural swimming.
Okay. Did you have a supplementary question there or not, Councillor McCormack?
No, well, could you confirm the new site? Is it going to be near the Milestones Museum?
No, it's too early for us to confirm sites at this stage.
Thank you very much. Okay, so if there's no more question on the site, let's move to slide number 2, the public access from the town centre. Has anybody got any questions on that or comments? No? Okay, so let's move to site conditions, the opportunities. Okay, slide number 3 on page 4. Okay, does anybody have any comments or questions on that? No? Okay. Sorry, say again? Yeah, I said that I was on page number 4, site conditions, opportunities. Okay, I was looking for questions or comments on that. Okay, but there weren't any coming forward. Okay, so if we move on to page number 5, which is site conditions and constraints, does anybody have any questions or comments on that? Councillor James.
Just a couple of questions. So in the back, at the back of the site where the parking is, because again, when we were, as part of the map, there was envisaged that parking wouldn't be there, and there would be facilities up the top there. Is that the case, that the parking has moved from up the top? Because in your discussions, when we was asked about parking, we said that it would still be up the top there, but the diagrams, are they showing something different? So that's a question, but also in relation to the map, and I'll go back again to what we wanted is some flexibility on that middle part of the site, in front of the bowling alley, so that we're really keen, so that we look at the opportunity of a stadium or some sort of venue that we can use of a substantial size in that site there. Is that possible that we can retain that for future need as part of this master plan?
Councillor Isaac.
We're listening to you, Councillor James.
Please.
We're listening to you tonight, Councillor James. But this is an indicative master plan. So I don't know if you want to add anything.
I would just add in terms of the car parking, we have a master plan that shows it at the back. Gagana said that each of the plots will have their own car parking. That is the plan at the moment. We'll continue to revise that as the plans develop and we have more certainty in terms of who the occupiers are likely to be on the park.
Thank you
So
very
just
much.
as a supplementary.
One supplementary.
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand, so now we're not going to have car parks, so we'll have car parks that relate to the user that is at the area. So it's not going to be a car park that you go to for the cinema, or it will be that they'll have their own car park. Is that how it's going to work?
There will be shared car parking and it's anticipated that the individual plots will have their disabled car parking and mother and child type car parking near the specific units.
Thank you very much. Okay, are there any more questions on the constraints? Councillor Rattigan and then Councillor Thomas.
Thank you. If we're on site conditions and the constraints, one of the constraints I think, and Councillor Isaac mentioned he didn't want piecemeal development on it, is that we're going to retain some of our occupiers, Milestones, the bowling club. Have we done anything to facilitate a different facility for them, an alternative to that, so as it opens up the whole of the leisure park to redevelopment, and maybe something that would be better. Milestones might be better in a different place. Can I ask about that constraint?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think this is going to be a dynamic process. And yeah, we've talked extensively to the existing occupiers. Things change. There might be operators who say, well, actually, we'd like the opportunity to come off the leisure park. But equally, there are those like the Milestones, I think I'm right in saying this, who are very enthused by the possibilities that bringing new activities onto the leisure park will mean for their for being able to develop their offer at Milestones. We're not in a position just to sort of say to Milestones, we'd like you to move off, Councillor Radigan. And in fact, the reverse is true. They are a regional draw. And I think that they'll be excited about what more they can offer residents as a result of what we're hoping to achieve here.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, alternative sites within the borough, within the town, may be advantageous in terms of their footfall. So, it is important that you broach that question with them, make sure that they are aware of opportunities elsewhere in the town, and to give them a steer that actually they could be better somewhere else if that's what they decided. But I get the bit that we can't kick them off. Thank you.
No, absolutely. We want to optimise what goes on in the future on the leisure park, and if that means that it might be beneficial for certain operators to look elsewhere, that's fine. But it's not a case of compulsion here. We're not looking to do that. We haven't got the money to do that anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Okay, Councillor Tomlin.
Thank you, Chair. If you indulge me, I've just a couple of questions, very quick. Unattractive access, the pink or whatever colour arrow that is, does that mean it doesn't look very nice because it seems to appear, or is it functional? Because I see it's still there in all of your plans, as in no changes. So really, what does unattractive mean? And the other one is constraints on size. So could the Aquadrome have an Olympic-sized pool, or have you got a space constraint on things like that? That's those two. Thank you.
Who's going first? Okay.
So the unattractive access, I mean, that's a simple way to say that it's not great experience when you arrive through that access. And yes, we have retained it in the proposal because it is the main access, especially from West Ham roundabout. But what we think could be achieved that through improving the landscape around it and visually with the new spaces and the new buildings, potentially also, like you were talking earlier, sustainable kind of introducing of solar panels. So it's that kind of visual experience. It is not, it's functional. Thank you.
In reference to sort of the Olympic-sized pool, I think the consideration had been given. The reason that it's not the constraint on the building size, it's the value of the use of the actual facility. So the Olympic pool, we have a number of them in the area, so there's already quite a lot of facilities that can be used for a relatively small number of galas. The pool water tends to be cooler, so it makes it more difficult for using it for other purposes. So actually, I think what we would look to put into the future facility is whatever can give us maximised opportunity for participation inside that facility. Does that answer the question on the Olympic pool?
Great, thank you very much. Okay, so if we then move on, okay, if no one else has any questions, okay, to existing buildings and trees, which are, okay, Councillor Koneska.
Thank you, Chair. We've discussed this evening that we would like to see an improvement, regeneration of the ice rink, but we can't control that process because we've sold off the long leasehold. We've also spoken about we'd like to retain a cinema on the leisure park, but we can't control that because we've sold off the long leasehold. Can the portfolio holder give us an assurance that we're not planning to sell off any more long leaseholds? I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that we actually end up running any of these assets ourselves because, as you've already pointed out, we don't have that experience. But can we look to doing the standard 10 or 20-year leases with the break clauses rather than putting them away for 100 years and then losing complete control going forward?
That's a good question. It is a consideration, but we also have to operate in the real world of what's achievable, what we can agree with operators, and therefore I can't rule out long leases. One would like to think that we can make sure that those long leases are sort of an improvement on some of the historic long leases that we've got here, and I have raised this with officers that the opportunity for us to look at direct landlord-tenant relationships with operators using the funds that this council has at its disposal, and so that is something that I'm keen, because I get the point you're making, and if there's a particularly attractive tenant there, like a what's the coffee shop and on the then as you know, I'm all for investing in assets like that generate lots of rent that we can spend on resident services.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's the existing building and trees. Oh, Councillor James.
Thank you. You talked about the cinema. If when its lease comes up, it ends, and can it then, is there any reason why these sites can't become housing? They could sell off the site for housing. So if at the end of their lease, can that site become housing or something else? Are we protected in relation to those sites?
Absolutely. I think the lease that's coming up shortly is a sublease. The one that currently a sublease to Odeon, but the long lease has still got many years to run, hasn't it? So so I don't think there's anything going to change quickly there. We are the freeholder, so we've got the ability to control use on site. I'll be pretty certain. We're not going to want to see housing there, Councillor James. And equally, I think our planning department and I have a word say in it as well. So I think the prospects of anyone successfully making an application for housing is pretty much zero.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Okay, I want to move up very quickly onto the master plan objectives. Does any, which is page number 7. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Again, I just want to go back to requesting that the parking is free. It was a bit of a vague answer.
Councillor James, you've already made that point
I
very
know, but I'm just doing it
vociferously.
again under active travel and parking.
I understand that, and you've already had the assurance from the portfolio. Well, he gave an assurance that that it would be considered. Okay.
Well, if it's the considered view of the committee, that's what they want us to look at, then obviously we'll report it back to the cabinet. At the moment, it's Councillor James's view, and no decisions have been taken. Yeah, we're keen to know what the committee's views are as a whole.
Okay. Is everybody in support of free parking at the leisure park? Yes. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, with 1 no, and I'm assuming an abstention there, Councillor Yeah, so it's the committee's view that we'd like free parking. Okay, thank you very much. One meeting, please. Just one meeting. Okay, so Councillor Tomlin, please.
Yeah, just a comment there on the fit for the future, responding to emerging land use, leisure and sustainability trends. The elephant that hasn't entered the room just yet will be space for a football stadium. That is a potential emerging land use I think we're all fully aware of, and I think it would be a generational failure if we didn't actually think about that in this master plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tomlin. Councillor McCormack, then Councillor Rattigan, then Councillor Conesco.
You took the words right out of my mouth there, Councillor Tomlin. I was about to ask about a football stadium. There's also been mention of superfluity of parking spaces and charging for parking. But how about this for an idea? We charge people to park there and have a park and ride scheme and have a shuttle bus going into town in accordance with our climate emergency objectives. Didn't we try that before?
Thank you, Councillor McCormack. Okay, Councillor Rattigan.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I think it is, we have a small charge on parking. It may encourage more people to cycle and walk. It doesn't seem to be a problem in the town or other towns, and I think we ought to at least consider it, and that's what Councillor Isaac has indicated, that he will consider a parking charge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Conesco, please.
Thank you, Chair. We've had the committee express almost, well, certainly as a majority, that we'd like the Cabinet to consider free parking. Based on the point we've just made about the football stadium, which I fully support, could we also have a vote as a committee to decide whether we want the Cabinet to also consider that as a potential asset within this, please?
By all means, Councillor.
Yeah. So on the football stadium, I think what we need to do in looking at what goes on in future on the leisure park is what we can, what's viable, what we can afford to do. We want, and we have a responsibility, I think, to all our residents, football supporters and people who are not interested in football particularly, to make sure that what we do here is going to be affordable. We can build it, and it will be a facility that is going to continue to be able to pay its way, and if there's a business case for a football stadium, then we're very ready and receptive to hearing that business case come forward. And in fact, I think the leader of the council has, I'm echoing what the leader of the council has been saying for some time now. So we'd like to hear.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Sorry, Councillor Cubitt. Thank you very much. Okay, yeah. So, it's not a question of lack of scrutiny. Okay, it's my understanding that that any decision in the scrutiny committee here, okay, should be formed through consensus, and that with motions, okay, it's the chair who invites, okay, councillors forward to actually give a motion. If you just hold on, please. Yeah, we're just looking at the Constitution now to get the relevant bit so it can be read out to the committee. All right, Councillor James, I have been advised, okay, that I should be trying to get a consensus and get an agreement through consensus, but should you wish to move a motion, then please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So it follows on from what you're saying, Councillor Coneccio. It's this committee recommends that the location for the new leisure centre stroke aquadrome should not prevent the opportunity for future uses such as a stadium. So we're talking about that central area, number 4, that is, because what we're being told tonight, if I can just speak to the motion, what we're being told tonight is that they will have a lease on these properties. So if number 4 comes forward, it will have a significant lease and we will then not have the opportunity in the future. And what we said and what I said at the briefing meeting is, if it sits empty for a little while and we just grass the area or do something nice, it doesn't matter. We need to wait and use our opportunity for that site. And it may be that we can't fund it at the moment, like Councillor Isaac was saying, but it may be in 2 years or 3 years' time, that may be a different thing. And we haven't really looked at and explored, as we asked as part of the MAP meeting, to look at and explore opportunities for funding for a stadium stroke concert hall stroke football stadium.
Thank you very much. Have we got a seconder, please? Okay, Councillor Canesco, do you want to reserve your right or do you want to speak now?
I'll reserve my right.
Thank you very much. Okay, so does anybody want to speak for or against the motion? Councillor McCormick, please.
Well, I think it's incumbent on us to do what's right for the football club. It's clearly not got sufficient room to operate where it is in Winklebury. It's a life raft venue that they've got there. They've got more teams and more uses than they can do with at Winklebury. The previous Camrose ground did have some AstroTurf pitches in addition to the football pitch. It was a Category B ground. The Winklebury one is a Category C at best. I think we've got a lot of space in the leisure park, and if this is going to be a forward-looking master plan, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, then we should consider putting a stadium in there. Not necessarily exclusively a football stadium. We could have other shared uses. It could be a community stadium. There are plenty of examples that we can look at up and down the country. But to rule it out, I think, or to just overlook it, is wrong.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else want to speak to or for? Okay, I had Councillor Watts first and then Councillor Cubitt.
Thank you. Councillor Isaac said that we want viable operations on the site. So when I was involved in this back in 2015-16, none of them were viable apart from the fast food places. So that just flies in the face of what you just said. Of course, we want to keep options open for a community stadium. That's precisely what it's going to be. It's not just for playing football, it's going to be for all different functions. And I'd see this as a leisure park, and this would be a ideal location for a community facility. So yeah, I support the motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cubitt, please.
Yes, I think it's an excellent motion. I think at the briefing we had earlier this week, or was it last week, I made a reference to the fact that I believe that the consultants that evaluated sites suitable in the town for an alternative football stadium were the preferred site that we were advised by the consultants at the time was on the leisure park. So in that vein, I think it would be really prudent for us not to preclude us or exclude it in the design.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cubitt. Okay, Councillor James, can you please repeat your motion so everyone is fully aware of what they're voting for, please?
Yes, of course. This committee recommends that the location for the new leisure centre stroke aquadrome should not prevent the opportunity for the future uses such as a stadium.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got the motion. Okay, is everyone clear on what they're voting for? Okay, can I see a show of hands for? Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, thank you very much, members. Okay, let us move on. Okay, does anybody else have any more questions? Councillor Watts, okay, you had a question on the master plan objectives. Has that question been answered, or shall we move on?
Well, listen to the discussion tonight. It's not really a master plan, is it? It's very fluid. That's the way I see it. We don't know where the sites are going. We don't know where the aquadrome's going. You don't know where the leisure park's going. So it's not really a master plan, is it? Really, it's an aspiration.
Work in progress.
Okay.
No, it's a gateway, and it enables us to move forward. And it must be influenced by the marketplace. You know, these are people that are the experts in running leisure operations, not this council. So inevitably, we are in a situation where it's a case of making the opportunity available to the marketplace, and we will use the master plan to guide us, and listening to the sort of comments we've had this evening from residents to make sure that we zero in on the best leisure operators are the ones that are going to be of most interest and to our residents.
The big question on this is when, actually. I mean, when are we going to deliver this? Because obviously it looks great. We love the pictures, but until we have an idea of when, it will be immensely difficult to say, yeah, that can be delivered, or during which period of time will this be delivered? Because obviously we expect the aquadrome to fall by 2030, perhaps.
Yeah, well, I hope it won't fall by 2030. Look, there's been a lot of work done over a relatively short period of time since the termination of the agreement with New River. We want to crack on over this, and so a lot of work's being done now on the business case for the aquadrome, so that we can get council approval for that when we come to it. And if Cabinet approves this master plan in January, then officers are tasked to pick up on the initial discussions that we've had with leisure operators and bring them forward so that we can make some decisions quickly, and also make sure that we put in place the necessary planning regime so that we can we can move forward with getting the necessary consents, probably on a sort of plot by plot basis, but maybe overall, to enable us to move this forward. But as you know, Councillor Rattigan, there's still a lot of work to be done on all this, and it's a complex business developing. But the aim is to get on with it.
Sorry, Councillor James?
I'd quite like you to just talk us through the different, what you've got planned on here, you know, so from 1 to 9.
Placeholders, isn't it?
I mean, have we got any ideas of what's going to be there? You're talking in the number 3 of being a food and drink. Obviously, we're hoping now that's going to stay a little bit empty there for our stadium. But I just was wondering if you could give us some idea.
The master plan just shows plots and their sizes. They're not use specific yet. So as we move on through commercial negotiations with potential occupiers, we'll then have an idea of who is interested in which plot, but we have not got to that stage yet.
Okay, has anybody else got a question on side number 10, which is the Councillor Tolley?
Sorry, Chair, just a general thing. There was some concern expressed in the briefing about potential access of the ring road through into the milestones, and it's a question of how critical is that to this master plan. So you know, if it was not to happen, do you tear it all up and start again, or is there a sort of plan B?
We can't say if it's critical at the moment. Obviously, as you know, with lots of projects, we were talking about car parking, for instance, that it will be subject to traffic modelling and assessment whether the existing access points would be sufficient to take on the amount of traffic. So I wouldn't say it's necessary according to our transport consultants, but it could help with minimizing also the amount of traffic that will go in the middle of the site, which we aim to have it more as a kind of pedestrian friendly environment rather than relying on every car to drive through that area.
Okay, let's move on to the slide number 11, which was the new Aquadrome illustrative examples. Any questions on that? Oh, Councillor Canesco.
Thank you. More of a comment rather than a question. I know that the Coral Reef Water World in Bracknell is quite popular among families from Basingstoke. So if we're looking at making our new Aquadrome a regional draw, it might well be worth taking some inspiration from that if we're not already.
Any other comments on the new Aquadrome, or shall we move on? Okay. Let's look at other leisure park facilities, which is slide number 12, please. Any questions on that? I think they're just indicative examples of potential other users. Okay. So let's move on to slide number 13, the concept development, please. So any questions on that? Any comments? Councillor Connect.
Yeah, just a very quick one. I actually really like this idea of having the two distinct, the urban and the ecological elements. So just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Moving on to slide number 14, okay, concept development. Okay, has anybody got any questions, comments on that, please? Okay, moving on to slide number 15, the potential functions. Okay, does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, moving on to question number 16, the vehicular, pedestrian and cycle movement in the illustrated master plan. So I've got my wife's teeth in today, I reckon. So, has anybody got any questions on that, or have we all? Councillor Cubitt.
Yes, I mentioned the football pitch, which is north of the railway line, and there's that orange arrow, which looks like it's going over the railway line. And I said in the members' briefing that whilst this is 54 acres, there's the very popular golf course to the west, and then there's the playing fields, and there's the current football pitch to the north. And I still think it would be bigger and bolder if we tried to design those sites which belong to us in addition to the 54 acres, which is the leisure park. And so I hope that whilst you've focused on the existing footprint, that you do some brainstorming in relation to the land that we already own to the west and to the north of the railway line. And so I'd love it if you could explain to me what that orange arrow is.
Well, I'll ask officers or our consultant to explain the orange line. The point you make is an interesting one, and I agree with you. And you know, it's fair to say that that by marketing the leisure park opportunity, some interesting ideas have come forward.
On the orange lines, they're actually cycle routes, and it seems like it's going over the railway, but that's actually the tunnel under the railway line, and that's an existing route which cyclists use at the moment as well.
Great. Okay, so are there any other questions on slide number 16? No? Okay. Moving through to slide 17, which is the landscape design connections. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. Just looking at one of the little pictures, little circular pictures we've got here, we've got BMX trail. BMX cycling and skateboarding has been around since I was a kid. It's now an Olympic sport, both of them. I often drive through Newbury. They've got a phenomenally good BMX and skateboard facility there, and it's been designed into the ground. It's not a freestanding structure that you can hide underneath or you can get graffiti on or anything like that. They've, you know, designed the ground to flow and the track to flow on that. I would love to see something like that, because I think it's a new sport. It's great for the kids, and you know, it's now an Olympic sport and it's with us to stay. You know, it's been around for 40, 50 years. It's not going anywhere. So if we can get something like that somewhere in there, it would make me quite happy. Thank you.
Councillor Tomlin.
Well, while we're making a bid for what we want, on a serious note, we want to bring people in. We want to attract people from a long way away. And it was talked about at the last leisure plan, 2012, whenever it was, snow domes. Are we approaching people, offering them the potential? This part of the world doesn't have one. You have to go to Milton Keynes, or you have to go even further north to Leeds, and you know, it's a possibility. We've got quite a unique skydiving experience, which again is Manchester has got one, I think, and they've got the snow dome as well. But are we approaching people like that? That would be, for certain folk, but quite a magnet if we look at the Milton Keynes model. Thank you.
Right, well, just on BMX, I wasn't aware of its Olympic status, and so noted. And on the snow dome, I don't think anyone's come forward as following our marketing to date, but if an organisation does come forward in the ensuing months, assuming we get the go-ahead to do this at Cabinet, then we're all ears. But there has to be a business case for it.
Councillor James.
So you was talking about being led by market forces, but is it, so two ideas tonight, but is it possibly if we wanted something of on this site that we could go out to try to attract that, you know, because what Onnalee talked about in the briefing was about having these 4 major attractions, anchor sites, you know, and I think there was some reference made in that paper to a snow dome. So I'm not saying that's what we would want, but if we wanted something of that size and that attraction to the town, is it that we can go out to them, you know, rather than waiting for the market to react I'm always nervous of just waiting for some, for them to come to us as to what they want to do, rather than what we would like to see on that site. And that's making reference to, again, the stadium. It's not that the funding may be here at the moment, but it's about waiting for that opportunity.
Well, I'm not an expert on leisure, and if there's a strong business case for a snow dome, then I would expect it to come forward. But the market, the people who are getting the investors funding them have got the leisure attractions that are most likely to be successful and most likely to be attractive to residents generally, whether it's in Basingstoke or across the country as a whole. And so I can't tell you what the anchors are, but the anchors will come forward, I imagine, because we've got some pretty impressive organisations knocking on our door at the moment. So I'm sure that it will emerge in time. But it's a very dynamic, fast-moving sector, the leisure sector. So yes, Kate.
Thank you, Chair. Just to add to that, the exercise that we did over the summer was that our agents went out to speak to people. We haven't been passive and just waited for people to come to us. It's been a really proactive marketing exercise, and we'll continue to make sure that it is. And we will put marketing boards up on site and make sure that we continue to proactively market it.
Yeah. Rest assured, we want the best for Basingstoke.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's now 10 to 10. I propose to go until 10, and then I will be calling a halt to proceedings. Okay, so if we then move on to number 17, okay, which is landscape design. Any questions on that? Any comments on that? We've had some comments on the, okay, moving on to number 18, which is potential activities. We've had some from Councillor Robinson. Does anybody else have any more? No? Okay. Sorry, Councillor Cubitt.
When we had our members panel, I mentioned an outdoor swimming pool, a Lido. They're very fashionable again. They're wonderful for the young. And for the older alike, and they're outside, and it would be incredible to have a huge, beautiful Lido, however you pronounce it.
Okay, there seems to be some consensus there to push that forward. Councillor Isaac?
Yeah, well, there may be, but I'm not. I think we have looked at it. I'm not sure how practical they are, really, to be honest with you. And when you think of the cost of heating them, heating the open air, then I'm not so sure. But we'll take on board what the committee says tonight. So, do you want to say anything, Helen, on that?
Thank you.
No?
I think it's about maximising the use for the people that want to attend there, and getting the best access to the facilities that we've got. So I think we need to be open to the ideas. But I think in terms of the Lido, the problem that you have with that is obviously it limits the capacity for swimming lessons, and those are very popular, and they're things that give life skills as well as access to health and fitness for our young.
Councillor Cubitt.
So I'm not saying a Lido instead of an aquadrome. You were asking whether there are other ideas. It could be beautifully landscaped into the leisure park and be a feature. But obviously, I'm tossing it in the air.
Thank you very much, Councillor Cubitt. Okay, moving on to the proposed activities side. Okay, slide number 19. Okay, does anybody have any questions on that? Stunning silence. Okay, moving on to the proposed activity loops. Okay, which is on slide 20. Does anybody have any comment or question on that? No? Does anybody have any questions on slide number 21, which is the 2 activity loops? Okay. No? Okay, so moving on to 22. Okay, we have the landscape ideas examples. Does anybody have any comments on that? Councillor Canesco.
Just a very quick one from me. Really like these. Can I just ask that we don't do what we normally do, or what we do quite a bit as a council, which is build fantastic facilities and then not budget enough for maintenance, so they start getting run down.
Great, thank you very much for that. Okay, Councillor James.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So if you look at some of this gym equipment that you in the pictures, I know it's just pictorial at the moment, but you know there is no money. Just in Norden, we have some park benches that were part of the development. They now come to the end of their life, but there's no money within the budget to do anything with them. You know, and that we need to be considering the lifespan of this and what we're going to do, and what, you know, so I think that's really important we think about that. I think Gavin did ask the question about what happens when one of these leisure pursuits comes to the end of its life in the map. What do we do? You know, and I think that we need to build that in. I absolutely love the example of the natural play one. I think that's really nice. I think that would be nice on this site. But it's again, it's the sustainability of these things, and there needs to be a budget for that.
Thank you, Councillor James. Your microphone, please.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, moving on to the natural plays. Anybody else got any more comments on the natural play? We've heard from Councillor James. Councillor Carruthers.
Just a really brief comment on, we've got the word inclusive on page 25, just to really emphasise how important that is, that whatever we do here, we have to make sure that there is something for everybody, for the elderly, for the disabled, for people with sensory difficulties. There's no excuse that we can't make sure that all of those needs are seen to. We've got a lot of outdoor equipment here. If we're doing that, then we need to make sure that people of different abilities can access that equipment.
Yeah, can I just endorse that and say that to the extent that it's not, those sorts of things are not provided by private operators, we'll make sure that in the areas that we continue to control, that all generations and all needs are met as far as possible. I think it's a very, very valid point you're raising.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Okay, just to look at the master plan, the final side. Does anybody have any questions on the very final side, or has anybody got a question on something that we've not covered in the slide deck before? No? Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, members. Okay, so I'd like to bring in an end to that paper. Thank you very much, Councillor Isaac. I hope that was most welcome. Okay, and officers, thank you. And then I'd like to move on to the work programme, please. Okay, so we've had obviously the work programme tonight for the 3rd of November. Okay, on the 5th of January, we've got the AMR and the infrastructure delivery statement. Okay, and then moving through to the meeting on the 2nd of March, we have the Leisure Park Public Realm delivery, okay, which Kate, who's putting her coat on, I'm sure will be ready for the 2nd of March, Kate. Okay, I'd also, we have something to be scheduled there, which is a council motion maintaining amenities and green spaces, and I'd like to put that in there as well. So we actually look at both the Leisure Park Public Realm delivery and also maintaining the amenities and green spaces. And I've got agreement from Ruth O'Mara that she'll be bringing a report to us. There was a suggestion earlier this evening, okay, that under the to be scheduled, we should have the infrastructure delivery plan, which I know is being worked on, okay, but Councillor Cubitt said that she wanted, she felt it should be on there, okay. I'm happy to put it on there, okay, just so that it doesn't get lost if everyone's agreeable. Does everybody agree? Great, okay. Apart from that, I'd then like to call the meeting to a close. Okay, it's now 10 o'clock exactly. Thank you very much. Yeah, it definitely says under the rules of debate.